Facebook starts alerting users of state-sponsored hacking. Drones in the US now need to be registered. 256 iOS apps get taken off the App Store, and more. It's Monday, October 19th, and this is Crunch Report. Facebook has begun alerting users if it suspects they're a target of state-sponsored hacks, meaning that if Facebook believes a user's account has either been targeted or already compromised by an attacker working on behalf of a nation-state. Now, if that happens, Facebook will now pop up a little notification warning them of the incident and instructing them to turn on login approvals. That's something that you should have turned on. It's a security mechanism designed to prevent other people from logging into your account. You might recall that Google launched a similar feature for Gmail users back in 2012. Now, on Facebook, when login approvals is turned on, the company will send a security code to your phone if it detects a login on a new device or a new browser, so only you, as the owner of the phone, will be able to enter that code and proceed. Facebook won't disclose how it determines an attack to be state-sponsored versus some other type of hack, only that it will show the message if it has evidence that strongly supports its conclusions. This is potentially a big hassle, though, if you get this alert. Facebook also says if you see a new warning message, you might need to rebuild or even replace your system if that's where the compromise came from. TechCrunch's Josh Constein also points out that a lot of Facebook users probably aren't going to understand what state-sponsored actors mean, suggesting something like hackers funded by national governments, or criminals working with other countries to access or steal your private information, or even bad people would probably be more descriptive. At a press conference today in Washington, D.C., Transportation Secretary Anthony Fox announced that the U.S. government will now require drones to be registered with the U.S. Department of Transportation, or DOT, which will create a task force of public and private industry leaders to figure out the best way to build a registration system. The DOT says it wants to have the task force recommendations in place by the middle of November, with actual registration being implemented before the end of this year. Pretty quick. The idea is that registration will remind hobbyists and drone operators to learn airspace rules before they fly and use devices safely. It also allows actual enforcement to let the FAA identify any operator who breaks these rules. This is in response not only to a lot more people owning drones and being excited about flying them around, but also a rise in near misses between aircrafts and drones in the US over the last year, many of them near major airports. Some drone makers like DJI have now programmed their devices to not be able to fly when near a US or international airport at all. Still, though, a drone database by Christmas time is like the most optimistic governmental timeline ever made. Hundreds of iOS applications, 256 of them to be specific, have been pulled out of the App Store. Why? Analytics service SourceDNA published a report showing how many apps are extracting users' personally identifiable information, like the email associated with your Apple ID, your device number, serial number of your device, and other apps you might have installed on your phones. This is possible via an SDK from a Chinese advertising company called Yumi that could access this information through private APIs. Now, 256 apps out of all the apps in the App Store, not very many, but it does raise some questions about how long these apps have had this type of access and what that means for Apple's App Store review process, since this was discovered by a third party and not Apple itself. SourceDNA says that about 2 years ago, Yumi started covertly pulling data on what current app was being used and got that through the App Store. Yumi used that same technique to request other data, including the advertising ID. About 1 million downloads of various apps had been using some version of this Yumi SDK that was violating user privacy. But source data adds that developers might not have realized what the SDK was actually doing. They might not actually be in the wrong, since user data was uploaded to Yumi's server. After SourceDNA submitted their report to Apple, Apple responded that apps in question had been banned, but it was working with the developers using that SDK to get their apps updated, be in compliance, and get back on it in the App Store, make some money. Time Inc., which owns 90 magazines like Sports Illustrated and People, perhaps you've heard of them, just welcomed a new kid on the block to its roster. Pop culture and beauty website Hello Giggles. Though the terms of the deal weren't publicly disclosed, a source tells the Wall Street Journal the deal is in the $20 million range. Hello Giggles launched back in May 2011 by adorable co-founder actress Zooey Deschanel with a focus on female readers and reader contributions. Hello Giggles will apparently keep their Los Angeles headquarters as part of Time Inc.'s People and Entertainment Weekly group. People is the company's biggest revenue generator. It brought in 18% of total company revenue in 2014. But as print media continues to decline in value, and it does, digital investments are an obvious play going forward for Time and other magazine incumbents. IBM reported its third quarter financial performance today, including revenue of $19.3 billion, which is slightly under analysts' expectations, and earnings per share of $3.34, slightly over. IBM shares are down in after-hours trading with an adjusted profit down 9% compared to the year-ago period, and revenue on an unadjusted basis down 14%. Now, this is also the 14th straight quarterly decline for the company in this third quarter. We have some good news, though. IBM's annual run rate from cloud delivered as a service, which IBM notes is a subset of its total cloud revenue, grew from $3.1 billion in the year-ago quarter to $4.5 billion this time. It's kind of a familiar case of a business company reinventing itself. A lot of companies are doing this. Cloud revenues increasing, but revenue misses and falling profitability show that IBM still has a lot of turning around to do yet. And that is the report for today and this Monday. Happy Monday, by the way. I'm Sarah Lane. Crunch Report airs every weekday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on TechCrunch.com. You can also find us on iTunes and on YouTube and on Facebook and probably some other places too. See y'all tomorrow.